Hey, listen, guys, Brian Stevens here. I did a long, winding conversation with my partner of 2 decades and good friend, Frank Garay, about the current state of what's taking place in real estate. Now, I think it's worthy of a show. It's meandering a little long, but I think it's going to give you insight, and from a loan officer's perspective, give you great talking points for the realtors that you're speaking with whose business you covet. And as I've said for the past couple of days, non-QM is where the business is. Talk to my friends at Oaktree. They'll teach you the language and the products to make your business excel in these less than perfect times. With that said, enjoy the interview.
Hello, welcome to Real Estate Daily Magazine, and I guess also welcome to Mortgage Shots / the National Real Estate Post. This is a dual podcast. It'll be seen on Real Estate Daily Magazine, of course, and on Brian's podcast as well, the National Real Estate Post with Mortgage Shots. So we're doing this together, Brian. I gave you a call because, this whole clear cooperation thing is not so clear to me. I'm struggling with it because I'm seeing, stories of, I guess it's associations and MLSs, like talking about defecting from the National Association of Realtors and being their own thing. Is that what's happened? Is that is that fairly accurate as to what this is all going on here?
Okay, so in the broader spectrum, there's a whole bunch of things going on with real estate right now. And one of the points that I keep bringing up, Frank, is that with the lawsuit that came down and the move that most of the multiple listing systems, and certainly the ones that are associated with the National Association of Realtors, they've capitulated and they've given into a lawsuit that took place in Missouri, which doesn't represent the rest of the country, nor does it represent all the people who are buying and selling homes. So one of the questions that I came up with early on in this whole thing was, well, what about the sellers who want to go ahead and pay a commission to a real estate agent
and want to make it known?
Yeah. After all, it is the most cost efficient way to bring your house to market and get the most from your property. These fintech companies, which are trying to replace real estate companies and trying to replace mortgage lenders out there, and we all know the names and we all know who they're backed by, which is again a longer conversation. But what's happening right now is there's forces at play that are working against the traditional real estate agent. Now, Frank, we know this. Again, this is backstory here. We know that when somebody makes an expensive purchase, that they want to have representation in areas that they don't understand. The people who don't mind paying real estate commissions are people with money, with means. We can find this with our travel agents right now. We can even find younger generations, people currently in their 20s, and if they're going to go take a safari in Africa, or they're going to go, swim the Great Barrier Reef or something like that, or a trip across Europe, they involve travel agents because they want to make sure that they're going to be taken care of. And by and large, people of all demographics and ages want to work with somebody who they know, like, and trust. We both like that, Jeffrey Gitomer 101. So it's not surprising to me that we've seen a pushback from inside and outside of the industry, from real estate agents, from lenders, but people who are buying and selling homes, who are certainly pressuring some of these multiple listing systems across the country to go ahead and say, well, hold on a second here. I want to offer a commission, and I want you to scream that at the top of your lungs. Yeah. So here's where the state of Utah comes in. We have a multiple listing system, or an MLS that's up in Park City, and a number of real estate agents up there, and the multiple listing system, and the local state association came out and told NAR that they're no longer going to cooperate with their clear cooperation mandate. Now, clear cooperation, it's a policy set forth by the National Association of Realtors that requires a listing be put on the multiple listing system within 1 business day of marketing the property to the public. So in one breath, they're saying you, in the best interest of the client that you're representing, which, by the way, everybody should follow that conduct. Everybody, every association, every realtor, whatever's in the best interest of the consumer. So they're saying it's in the best interest of the consumer. Therefore, NAR is going to mandate that you put that property on a multiple listing system within 1 day. In other words, what they're kind of doing, and I get it, is they're taking away the personal decision-making of that agent. The idea behind it, I would presume, is going to be to make sure that agent isn't trying to get a pocket listing where they're going to double-end it, and that might come at the expense of the consumer. However, this is kind of speaking out of both sides of our mouth. So we understand what clear cooperation is. We understand the reason for it. We understand that NAR is trying to work in the best interest of their consumers. But what happens is once somebody puts that property in that multiple listing system, and we know that they can't say that they're offering a commission to the buyer side or the person, here's how I frame it, to the agent who is bringing the winning bid to your property. A person who has worked with a client in the past, shown multiple houses. God knows, I mean, half these realtors are part-time shrinks. We know this.
Right.
And what they're doing is they're fulfilling their legal and their moral obligation. I would say their sacred obligation to that client. However, if I'm a real estate agent and I put my listing into my local Park City multiple listing system in the state of Utah within 1 day as they're mandating and I'm a membership of, if I don't do that, I'm violating their terms of engagement on this. And this is everywhere in the country.
Right.
But a lot of multiple listing systems, Frank, and I just found this out a couple of weeks ago when I was speaking down in Temecula in Southern California. The San Diego multiple listing system down there says they mandate not only clear cooperation, but once you engage in clear cooperation within 24 hours, what happens is that you have to follow all their other mandates because your property is now part of them. And one of their mandates is you cannot list a commission to the winning agent who brings that winning bid to your listing inside or outside of the multiple listings.
Not even outside.
Not even outside. So now you can't put it on TikTok, you can't put it on Facebook, or a number of the other sites.
Can you? Not even a phone call?
No, you are not allowed to. This is the mandate from the San Diego multiple listing system, which is a unbelievable overreach of their authority. But on top of that, here's the real stinky part of this whole thing, Frank, is what they're doing is they're saying that you cannot fulfill your fiduciary to your client. Frank, you take a listing, or Brenda takes a listing on a property right now. She takes my listing, and I say, Brenda, I want you to scream at the top of your lungs that I'm going to offer 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%. It doesn't matter what I offer. It is my real property.
Right.
I'm the owner of that property,
right,
which is guaranteed in the Constitution of the United States, and my ability to speak about my property, which is guaranteed in the Constitution of the United States, is taken away by the national and the state associations of California. Now, how is that possible? How can they force me to break my fiduciary and not work in my client's best interests or fulfill their wishes? Now, if you'll just give me a second here and I'll shut up. Prior to this lawsuit, I woke up in the middle of the night and I said, I bet NAR has something to say about the sacred nature of the fiduciary that the agent has to their client. I'll bet you they do. And I started scrolling through their bylaws and their rules and their regulations, and lo and behold, I found these 2 points. So this isn't me. Don't shoot the messenger. But I'm going to read you 2 points from the National Association of Realtors prior to and still on the books of the rules, the regulations, and bylaws that everybody must follow because we have to fulfill our fiduciary. Here's what NAR says. This interpretation affirms the basic agency relationship between a listing broker, that would be the agent and the broker, and the principal, that would be your seller, as defined in the listing contract. That's how we know it's a seller, because it's defined in the listing contract. A board or multiple listing system rule may not properly interfere with or even supersede. They've said we are not even allowed to get in front of that relationship, that sacred relationship, your fiduciary, with or supersede the relationship established by the terms of the agreement between the broker and their seller. So NAR is asking me now to break my fiduciary, both inside and outside the multiple listing system. These 2 points don't coalesce. They further go on to say in a different chapter, any regulation restricting or limiting the practice of a realtor in the conduct of their business, unless it concerns ethical practices, is, and listen to this, an equitable limitation on its membership. So we have, we could go on and on about this. So when we find Park City, Utah going out there and saying, we are not going to cooperate with your clear cooperation, I think by extension what's taking place is they're saying we're not necessarily going to play by your rules. Because I mean, maybe 50%, 70%, 20%, we don't know these numbers, of people who were in that class action lawsuit, and the one that's currently being filed in the state of Illinois right now, they don't represent what all sellers want. They represent a handful of people.
Yeah, it seems like that's who's really been left out of this whole thing, is the seller saying, I want to let another agent know that I'll pay him 2.5%. I want that to be known, right?
Because
it's my house.
I'm going to help you.
Right. It's my house. It's my listing. It's my home. I want to sell it. I'd like you to represent me, but I do want you to tell people, other agents, that if they bring a buyer whose contract I accept, I would like to pay them 2.5. This is negating that. This is just like sweeping it all under the carpet. Here's the thing, though. You said that the NAR rule or mandate that read to us says that they can't interfere. An association can't override what's in a contract, right?
They cannot supersede your relationship.
Supersede, or right. Okay, was it contract or relationship? Because I think that in California anyway, California Association of Realtors changed their contracts. So now their contracts probably don't reflect, right, this problem. So now they're not stomping on the toes of the contract because the contract's been changed.
Well, let me ask you this, right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but let me ask you this. I know that your mom and your wife, they've been in the real estate industry for a long period of time. Let me ask you this, and it's an honest question. What is more important to Brenda or Annie? Is it to fulfill the obligations of their sacred fiduciary, or is it to follow the rules of NAR?
But for sure, fiduciary. Yeah, they want to take care of their seller. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and there should be a caveat in there. Like the contract should be worded in such a way that I, the seller, check this box saying, yes, I would like to make known to other agents that I am offering this amount of money. It's in his contract. Right. He's agreed to do it. Put it in the MLS. Right. Let everybody know about it. What's a big freaking deal? He signed a contract stating that.
Well, it is a big deal. It is a big deal because I believe by stating that, I am going to get more buyers on my property.
Right.
And especially in a slow market right now. And I believe I'm going to get the most out of my sale if my real estate agent acts on my wishes. I believe that to be true. So it's a big deal if it's $10,000, $20,000, $30,000.
Right. I mean, I'm saying, when I say what's a big deal to NAR and the associations? If a seller is agreeing to do it, let him say it in the contract. Why is that a problem? You know what I mean? So let me ask you this, though. Let's kind of wrap this thing up. Is what do you think about that? Like, do you think you'll see associations, MLSs just defect and just run their own thing? And because at the end of the day, I mean, right now these lawsuits are going after giant associations that have very deep pockets, right? And there's money in that. But these associations and MLSs defect, and they're just, hey, it's your contra costa board of realtors, and we have a contract that says they can state whatever they want. The seller can say, I want to do it, and so we're going to go by this. I mean, do you think that's going to happen? Do you think you're going to see that?
I think what's taking place is, I think if you look deep into this, find out who's going to benefit from these lawsuits and this type of infighting and creating divides inside all of our state and national associations. Who's going to be the benefactor? And I think you're going to find that that's where the money comes from in order to facilitate these types of lawsuits. And yes, it's happening right before our eyes right now. We have multiple lawsuits coming from buyers, coming from agents with multiple listing systems. Boy, that's a tough listener. And with state associations and the national association. And this is going to continue to crop up because the truth of the matter is the decisions that NAR and our state associations have made, they overreach what their legal authority is. And in some cases, as it's argued in courts, which is going to be in vacuums, you are asking your realtor to break their legal, their moral, and their sacred obligation, their fiduciary, with people who want to list because they believe it's in their best interest, a commission that's going to be paid to a buyer side agent who's bringing the winning bid to them. Now, let me get this one point. I just want to throw this out there. Because we argue these in a vacuum, that's what happens in a court. We put everything in a vacuum, and then the solution that comes out the other end doesn't represent everybody. It's not clear for everyone. Mm-hmm. Now, I want you to think about this. From a lender's perspective, HMDA, which was passed in 1978, says that every lender must get the ethnicity, the race, the gender of whoever it is that they're serving. And the reason they're doing it is that they don't want to have a disparate outcome. Mm-hmm. That means if you have 13% of African Americans in your community, you get the whole gist.
Right. Can't be any redlining, unfair lending practices, blah, blah, blah.
Right. But the whole thing is this, from a lender's perspective, it's called disparate impact. They're trying to find cases where we have disparate impact. That would state that a lender is knowingly and meaningfully going out there and trying to discriminate against a certain class, okay? Now what they've said is, the courts have said, it's not disparate impact, it's disparate outcome. You don't have to have any animosity or any, fight with any group of people out there, but if your outcome, the loans that you publish, do not represent the community that you live in, you are guilty of a disparate outcome, and that disparate outcome is the same effect as a disparate impact. Now, let's go back to what realtors are doing right now. Who can afford to pay a realtor's commission when we know that 89% of our communities right now can't pay their 3.5% down payment on an FHA deal? We know that to be true. 89% of our communities right now can't pay that and their closing costs and pay for a realtor. So what the courts have done right now is they've created a disparate situation, which is an impact, and they've also created a disparate outcome. So if lenders, now if you get minority groups and underserved communities that are no longer going to try to buy a house because they can't afford the cost of admission, okay, if they can't afford the cost of admission, and these are the realtors who are bringing me or you a deal right now, we as a lender, by extension, are going to have a disparate outcome in the numbers of the loans.
Oh, you're right. Because we can't do loans for those people now because they can't pay the buyer agent commission, so they can't buy a house. So now my numbers are skewed.
Correct. So the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and we've seen in the past at times, they've been all too happy to bring these type of lawsuits against lenders out there. So this whole thing, it's Frank. I mean, how long have we worked on this type of stuff together? Like
20
2
years.
decades?
Yeah,
2 decades. And I think the one thing that we would probably both bring up when we write our memoirs is going to be a chapter dedicated exclusively to unintended consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're going to see is the unintended consequences of possibly a well-intended, however, less than desirable resolution to a lawsuit that is going to create waves for lenders and realtors alike.
Yeah, and let's not forget that this NAR settlement still isn't actually done. I think the judge has till the 26th of November to actually put the seal on it and say, okay, this is what it is. And in the meantime, you've got the DOJ looming out there still, thinking they still might jump back into the mix, right, and make some sort of recommendations to the judge or change things entirely. So the whole thing's just a big fat honking mess, and it's just, you know what? But what's our advice to our real estate professionals out there that are just heads are spinning right now? Just going, what the freaking, what's the advice, man? What do we do today?
All right. I mean, for me, and again, I don't have a dog in the fight. Me and Frank have both been down to Keller Williams in Austin, Texas. We know those guys. We've been to the old Realogies back in New Jersey. I don't have a dog in the fight. Frank doesn't have a dog in the fight. We just don't. But I mean, if this is what's going to take place before our eyes, here's what I see happening. And this is in real time. Is as long as there's meat on the bone and there's money in the coffers of our larger real estate companies, they're going to continue to get sued. That's a fact of the matter.
They've got beat up so bad already.
It will eventually make its way down to your local offices. They are not going to sue a local cottage brokerage.
Yeah. Betty's brokerage service.
Right. So I think what we're going to see is we're going to see more meaningful and costly lawsuits with our larger brokerages out there. If I was a real estate agent, me personally, and I'm not speaking for Frank, I'm not speaking for anybody, but for me personally, I would work with a local broker, something in your community. We eat local, we buy local. Why don't we real estate and lend local too and keep that money in our community? You're not going to be the recipient of these ridiculous lawsuits because there's not enough money on the table for it. And I would go about and scream at the top of my lungs that I'm going to offer commissions. And if my national and state association don't reflect, as it seems to be the case for me and certainly other realtors, I'm not going to allow them to consider or continue to be my voice. And listen, and here's the thing. You quit, it all just goes away. That's the funny thing.
Yeah.
If you're not part of the national or your state association, this all just poof.
Yeah, I mean, if you go, now I could be completely wrong here, and if I am, I apologize. But to everyone listening or watching, I don't think there's anywhere at the department, at least for California, is what we're going to speak about too, at the California Department of Real Estate that says you have to be a member of NAR or have to be a member of CAR. It just says you need to be licensed in order to conduct real estate transactions with the Department of Real Estate, which everybody is. So you can absolutely still conduct real estate, write contracts. They don't have to be CAR contracts. You can write any contract. You can have any contract you want, as long as people are willing to sign it, and you're on the hook for it, obviously, as the broker, right? But you don't have to be a part of these associations, and you can still practice real estate, right?
You can still practice real estate, and in most multiple listing systems around the country, you can still upload your property.
You can. To MLS, right. Yeah, you still can. Yeah. So, wow. Interesting times. Well, we'll see what happens, man. We'll have to come back again and chat about it some more and some other stuff. But
well, I'm all about it.
Yeah, well, right on. Well, thanks for joining us here, both on Real Estate Daily Magazine and on the National Real Estate Post. We'll do this more often. And Yeah, let us know your thoughts down below. Leave your comments, man. We'd love to hear what your thinking is here, and let us know if we're crazy, if you think we're right, or whatever the case may be. So with that, let's get out of here, man. Yeah, there you go.
All right, brother. You have a good day.
Thank you, man. See y'all later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.